lot of you guys are going to be listening to this podcast later, watching this on YouTube. I thought it'd be fitting at the end of the year, Taylor, to just kind of sit down and maybe recap a little bit of what the year was in our investment world. You and I are big advocates that, like the great Disney documentary, which is Ratatouille. The premise there is anyone can cook. And I think you and I really believe that every real estate agent should have an eye on the investment world, maybe not to the abandonment of their core business, but every agent should be paying attention to opportunities that present themselves and really kind of have an outlet when those opportunities do present themselves. So maybe just give us kind of a rundown of what our investment world looked like this year, maybe a little bit of success, a little bit of failure, kind of what the year was for. We own two different companies. One is an acquisition company called Fast Ready Offer, and another is a liquidation company called Bridge Mountain Properties. So maybe just give us kind of a rundown of the year that was.
Okay. Well, so just a brief background on our investment company. We started in 2019, went all in and had a lot of success. 2020, 2021 were good years for everybody. Every industry, all you had to do is just make sure that your heart was still beating, that you were still breathing, and you would make money. So 2021 were very good years. Joe and I realized that as good as they were and as we made a ton of money, we couldn't build a business around that because anything that happened during COVID years, it didn't require a lot to have success. So 2022 hit. At this point, we were heavy into acquisitions. 2022 hit. Interest rates went really high. We got stuck with about 18 properties and ended up through 22 into 23. We ended up getting rid of all of those. We lost money on some of them. We broke even on some of them. We made money on some of them. But because of that, we went like probably early to mid 23. We game planned that we were just going to wholesale everything we touched. And it might have been an overcorrection, and stopping the acquisitions altogether was probably just us being super conservative, but we made a decision to go heavy into wholesale, meaning that we would tie properties up, put them in contract with the right that we could assign those to somebody else to buy and to close, and we would get paid for doing that. So 23, we started doing that. 24, this year, we pretty much, that was still our plan, was just to wholesale everything. And we'll end the year right around 60 transactions that we were able to wholesale. Average wholesale fee that we received on those was right around $20,000. And, there's costs that we have to the team, there's expenses, but overall it was what we learned from 2024 is that there's still a ton of people flipping houses, because for us to lock up 60 properties and assign them to end buyers shows that there's still a very healthy flip market happening. And in the last 2 months, Joe and I have made a decision to get back into the acquisition and actually flipping. We've got 3 flips going right now. None of them will close in 24, but 2 of them will be completed in 24 and ready to close in 2025.
So I guess, kind of talk about that a little bit. I would say, for traditional real estate agents, they may look at us and say, wow, you guys take on a lot of risk, or you're very adventurous in the investment space. I think you and I are relatively conservative, though. So maybe talk about some of our fears or hesitancy and why we kind of steered away from flipping to the wholesale world. Like kind of what led to that decision, and maybe what was the good thing with that, and maybe what could be a regret or a core learning for you in that side of things.
Yeah, that's a great question. One of the things that Joe and I get told all the time, that we're very different in a lot of ways, but one of the things that we're very similar in, that when we first got into business together in 2005, is we loved the day that a deal closed and we got a check, a commission check that we were able to put into our bank account and pay for our kids' college and whatever, diapers back then. But one of the things, like when it came to the investment world, the thing that we saw that we were missing was getting checks for certain types of deals that we were giving up, so that other people were getting that huge endorphin rush from seeing a check come in the mail. And there's something, are you able to screen share can you give me screen share access, Joe?
Yeah.
This email. Let's see.
Hold on one sec. You should be able to. If you click share, does it pop up?
Yeah, let's see. Screen share. I think it's this one. Are you seeing my emails right now?
Nope.
Oh, here we go.
Maybe Alyssa. There we go.
Here
Yep.
we go. Okay, so right now, what you're looking at is an email that I got this morning, and it just says notification of deposit. It's from U.S. Loan Servicing, and it says, "Dear, dear the 2597 Yavapai Road, U.S. Loan Servicing has initiated an electronic credit deposit to your bank account for the amount of $352. Funds should appear in your account on 12/11/2024." And then there's a PDF that kind of it shows the deposit, shows like the interest, the principal, whatever. So the cool thing about this, and the reason I get so excited about this has been happening. This same email has been happening since 2020. So it's 2024 now. This is a house we bought in Golden Valley, Arizona back in 2020. We paid $25,000 for it. The person who bought it from us gave us a $10,000 deposit, and we sold it to them as an owner finance deal. So we were into the deal $15,000. The last 4 years, every month we get a check for $350, and we get about 20 of these emails a month. So going back to your question, like what for me, I think that knowing I didn't know what it would look like, and I didn't know about owner finance deals at the time completely. We kind of did. But what I knew is that there was ways that we could generate passive income and ways that we could create huge chunks of money. That was what drew us into this. And I think for you and I both, I come from a little bit of a construction background. So looking at houses that needed work and rehab and all that didn't totally freak me out. Being around inspections and permits and certificate of occupancies and just all the offsite management that goes into that didn't freak me out. Joe and I were able to look at an opportunity that we felt like we could handle, even though we didn't know everything. And this is the result of that. Starting that
Yeah.
business that long ago, we've already got our money back on this deal, and we'll continue. It's a 20-year note. We'll get $350 a month for the next 16 years on a property we owe nothing on.
Yeah. And that our net cost is zero because for what we purchased it, we basically got it back in the form of a down payment.
Yep.
So talk about, before we get into some of the steps, people should take when they get started, maybe talk about risk versus reward. So when it comes to wholesale, it's very low risk. And I would say it's probably medium reward, right? Like when you're wholesaling a property, you have a contract out on it. You could have an earnest deposit out on it, but you're not tied to the overall downside of ownership of the property. You literally just own a contract. And so like I think we're very comfortable with that low risk, medium reward. Yeah, I know you've got some math equations where it's like if we're going to take on more risk, we need to get significantly more reward. But from wholesaling, which is low risk, medium reward, and you move kind of into that wholetailing, which is like you take down the contract, you put some lipstick on it, and this is like almost like a flipping light, right? Like on a wholetailing property, do we actually purchase it and then flip it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But it's not like a full renovation. A wholetailing is kind of like what we're doing up in Sun City right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always go back to, I think it was Andrew Carnegie that said, well, and the question that just anybody that's on here, just ask yourself, like, is it better to own something or to control something?
Mm.
Just think about it. Like, is it better? What are the benefits of ownership? Well, I own it. Like, nobody can mess with it. It's all mine. That's not true. You have taxes. You have, if somebody breaks in and steals something, you have repairs. You have a pipe.
If a unlicensed contractor's in there working and they fall off a ladder, you've got liability for premises, issues. I mean, there's a lot of things.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you ask yourself that question, ownership versus control, the only thing better than ownership is controlling something that you don't own that you still make money off of, because all of
Right.
that ability is erased. So wholesaling, just like Joe said, wholesaling is us finding a property that's worth, let's say market value is 500,000, put it in a contract for 300,000. We then find a guy who wants to take on the ownership piece of that. We sell it to them for $330,000. They close for 330. We get paid $30,000, and then they take the ownership piece. And because we controlled the contract and we controlled the ability to assign it, we got paid $30,000 without most of our deals, we have zero money in earnest money deposit because of the way our contracts are written. And so the risk is just time. There's, the team efforts, the emotional energy that goes into working with a seller who's a lot of times distressed and needs to see things happen. So there is an emotional cost to that, but as far as a out of the bank account, the risk and the cost is very, very low with wholesaling.
So when do you transition from like you do a lot of this without because my job is for those of you who don't know Taylor and I's world, my responsibilities primarily our real estate team and our real estate network. Taylor's responsibility is primarily our investment company and our joint venture relationships. Easiest way to think of it is my job is the creation of income. Taylor's job is the creation of wealth. And then we basically live a consecrated life where we split our income, we split our wealth. And so we're just both running as fast as we can. So my job is somewhat of an advisor where Taylor may come to me and go like, hey man, do you see anything on this deal that I don't see? Or I'll come to him on our team and say, hey, do you see anything I don't see? But ultimately the decision lies with Taylor on our investment world and the decision lies with me on our team. When are you thinking this needs to be a flip? We need to actually close on this property and purchase it versus wholesaling. Like, what is that? Where is that line of demarcation for you? When do you think like, all right, we need to just take this thing down? Because it's like, if we could just make an easy 30 on a wholesale deal, how much money do we need to make to take on the additional risk of purchasing it?
Mhm. Yeah, so the easiest rule of thumb here for anybody that's listening, and here's what I'll tell you too. When it comes to when you hear the word wholesale, immediately most people they start thinking of just, like illegal deals and unlicensed people getting together doing shady stuff and just screwing somebody over. And there's legal and lawsuits and insurance problems, and it just creates this whole messy thing, which when Joe and I, when we hear about something like that, we get really, really excited because when something's complicated enough that there is that type of perception, we know because of who we are and because we operate off systems, we operate with a very good culture and very good people. When we hear that there's a world where there's a whole bunch of messy, like bad actors, we get excited because we know that we can go in, do what we've done for the past 20 years in the real estate world in the world of wholesale. And that's why it's worked for us, is because we treat it the same way a doctor treats his profession, the same way that an attorney treats their profession. We treat it like a business with systems, with amazing people. And so I think wholesaling, just so everybody knows, is there is a lot of money to be made in wholesaling, and you can do it the right way and separate yourselves from some of the bad. I mean, even realtors get a bad reputation in a lot of ways. And I think people on this call know they've been able to go and carve out a world where they're looked at as a professional and provide an amazing service. So to answer Joe's question, as far the rule of thumb for us is 3 times. So if we look at it, we're like, dude, we know we can make, and sometimes we'll even test it. We'll get a deal locked up. We'll send it out to our buyers. We'll come back and we'll see like, okay, we're going to make 20K on this thing. What would happen if we bought it and put in a new kitchen and did new floors and painted it? How much would we make? And our rule of thumb is if we can make 3 times as much profit, not just the gross, like the total, but the if we make 3 times the profit that we would from wholesaling, then for us, it's worth buying it and owning the property and flipping it.
So I want to get into some first steps. Before we do, Brett said something to us a long time ago. If you guys are kind of intro to investing and you're like, dude, I've got this great deal I'm going to buy. I just need to kind of switch out a few light fixtures and some doorknobs and like we're dialed. Brett Brett Tanner, who's Taylor and I's coach, said a changing out a light fixture in a property you flip is going to cost you $25,000. We're like, that sounds crazy. Who's buying a $25,000 light bulb or light fixture? But that's not what he meant. Taylor, break it down for people. Like, how do you evaluate it? Or what did Brett mean by if you change out light fixtures and doorknobs, cost you $25,000? Why did he say that?
Well, yeah, Joe and I both like, dude, we can do this so much better than Brett. Like, we're so much smarter. But what we
Right.
found is the first house, we're like, dude, these gold doorknobs, they look really bad. We need to switch them out. And we put in nickel polished or brushed nickel doorknobs. We're like, dude, these doorknobs look amazing, but now the doors look like crap because they're these old like no panel doors. Like we've got to switch out the doors. And then we switch out the doors and we're like, dude, now the doors look so good. We've got to get the base fixed up. We've got to get the molding.
Mm,
We've got to get the like these brand new doors on this old flooring just looks horrible. So it just and it
it
happens every
snowballs.
It snowballs. Yeah, you fix something and you're like, this house looks really good. If we just did one more thing,
Yeah.
think of how much better it would look, how much money. So it's yeah, you've got to be when you if you're truly trying to wholesale a house and just a true wholesale is you trash it out, you do a clean.
Yeah, the definition of wholesale is clean.
Yeah.
Maybe paint. But like we're up against this in a property we just acquired where we bought it, we swapped out doorknobs and light fixtures and flooring. And I went there and I was like, dude, that kitchen could really use some love. And we had to like exercise constraint because we got 15 grand into paint, flooring, and light fixtures and whatever. And it was like, if we don't stop, we're going to eat up all profit in just making this the most beautiful house that ever existed. And then at that point, we're into it, what it's worth, and we make nothing. Um, all right. So we've got about 15, 20 minutes left. What I think you and I have been very vulnerable and honest with people in saying there were issues that kept us out of investing for a really long time. Some of the issues were um, real estate is a very easy way to become rich, but it's not the easiest way to build wealth. And by that, I mean, you and I were making a lot of money, but we always had either whether it be limiting beliefs, um, we were almost too conservative, and or there were times where we're like, dude, we just don't have the cash to take down a $300,000 investment property or whatever it is. So how did you overcome whatever limiting beliefs and concerns you had about investing to really get to a world to where you're doing 60, 100 units a year?
Well, our advantage, I think the obvious advantage we have is our there's two of us because I think if we went back and said we need to run a really successful investment business, we need to run a really successful real estate business, and it's just you, or if it was just me trying to do that, I don't think we would have been able to succeed at that. I think the having the unique ability, this is something I've started talking about a lot, but figuring out what it is that really lights me up was
Mm-hmm.
was this investing world and the deal and the spread and just the numbers and the construction part of it. Like it really got me excited. Joe's unique ability was building the network and just inspiring and just being a part of big things happening, nationwide. And so for us to identify what it was that we really liked, so that I think for us was a big turning point when we realized how much more powerful we became when we supported each other's unique abilities and like instead of trying to compete to be the best at everything with each other, like, that was a huge thing. I think for the advice that I would give to somebody who's like, I love investing. I think it's awesome. I see what you guys are saying is true. I do think there's a lot of money there. You've got to have a partner. You've got to have a way because every realtor in America who's working their business is going to come across 3 to 5 deals a year by doing nothing without any extra prospecting, without even trying to put out a mailer or a pay-per-click ad. You're going to find 3 to 5 deals that you could make a ton of money off of through some sort of an investment strategy. And so those 3 to 5 deals you find right now, find a partner. And shameless plug, Joe and I are your partners. Like any deal you find, bring to us. We'll do a JV. We'll figure out money that works and we'll pay. We buy houses in Ohio and Texas and Michigan and Arizona, Utah, Nevada. So Oregon. So we buy houses all over the place. But I would say the number one thing is find a way that you can partner with people because if you try to do it all, and run your retail real estate business, you're either going to just, do each of those things 25% or you're going to fail at one and do good at the other. But it's really tough to just try to create an investment business. You already have an investment business because you already have 3 to 5 deals a year right now without doing anything that are coming across your table.
Yeah, so I think that that's so wise. The misnomer in all of this is the easy thing is finding a property. The hard part is finding the money. The reality is it's very much the opposite. If you find a great deal, Taylor at joetaylorgroup.com, we will help you take it down. Like you don't have to worry about the money part of it. There's probably a million people in your world that'll help you take it down. The thing is finding a great deal. Because whenever we talk about this, so often an agent will come to us and go like, hey guys, I got this investment opportunity for you. We're like, great, we'd love to hear it. And they're like, all right, we've been on the market for 6 months. It's worth 600. We're listed at 580. And I think they'll take like 570. And I'm like, so wait a minute. You're telling me this property is worth 600. You bid at 580 for 6 months. Why has it not sold? And also, just so we're all on the same page, you cannot make money as a real estate investor with a 3 to 5% margin. It just doesn't work that way. So Taylor, talk a little bit about the psychology, not of the investor, but in the person who needs to get out of a property. This is not a, I'm willing to take 3% less than market value. Who are the people that are needing to get out of their property? Because to quote the great Philip M. Jones, people do things for their own reasons, not yours. Because I think that's another thing people get sideways about real estate investing. You're not preying on people. You're not taking advantage of people. You're not talking people into selling their property. Like the fact is, there are people who need to liquidate their properties who don't know where to go. And whether it's OfferPad or Open Door or us or anyone else, like they just want out fast. They want out cash. They're embarrassed of the condition of their property. So what are some of the personas, or like what are we looking for when we find these properties?
Great question. And that's probably what everybody's wondering, the 3 to 5 deals a year. So I'm trying to figure out, let me see if I can screen share again. I just want to show you some examples of houses that we've come across. So that's number 2. So let's see if that worked. Are you seeing
Yep. How to know a deal's a deal? Yep.
Yeah, so this is a question. It's funny, Joe and I this morning were talking about, we have some people look at this business and think that the only thing we're doing is finding the weakest in society, the most broken in society, those that need a hand to lift it up, and somehow we're going to them and just putting our foot on their head and stealing the money out from under their mattress and taking their house. That's just not the case. What we found is there are so many people, homeowners, that do not want to deal with realtors. They don't want to sign in their front yard. They don't want a lockbox. They don't want to clean up their house every time they get a call like, hey, you've got a showing today at 3 o'clock. They want their cash, and they're willing, because they know they don't have to pay commissions and closing costs. They're willing to sell for a price below market value just to have the convenience of quick cash, not dealing with a sign in their yard. So here's an example right here. This house looks like an amazing house. I mean, for Vegas, this is a typical tract home. I think this house was like 3,000 square feet. Kitchen is pretty sweet. Like it looks really nice. This is a house that very easily a realtor could go in and say, hey, let's get the floor, the grout clean. Let's get things off the counter. We'll list this thing, and it's worth $480,000. We bought this thing for $320,000 because they did not want a sign in their front yard. So it's just some people, to quote Joe via the great Phil Jones, people do what they're going to do for their own reasons and not for ours. So when we look at a house and say, why wouldn't they list it? That's your reason, and that's the world you live in. That's the telescope you're looking through to try to figure out who these people are. People do what they're going to do for their own reasons and not for yours.
But that's the hardest part of what we're dealing with, Taylor, and educating realtors is somehow real estate agents have in their mind that they actually control the outcome and they control the decision making, and they can real estate agents, you need to understand, like, people are going to make their decisions. That, like, how many times has someone gone to list a property only to find out that it's sold to an investor after their listing appointment? And the reality is, an agent didn't ask the right question, which is, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, let me ask you this. Help me understand what your priorities are, because we offer a world in which you can sell your home really fast with absolutely no hassle, no showings of your property, and you could be closed in 5 to 10 days and have cash in your pocket. Or we can go on the market traditionally at a very attractive price, and we could probably be sold in the next 45 to 60 days. Or we can try to get top of market, do a little bit of rehab, try to get you every dollar you possibly can. And we're probably looking in today's market from 3 to 6 months. And if you just laid that out for people, there is a segment of the population that will do each. Some people are going to go, I want every dollar I could possibly get. I don't care if it takes 6 months. Wonderful. Are you willing to invest a little bit of money and some paint and things like that? Whatever I need to do. Okay, great. Then there's going to be some people who are like, well, I don't, I'm not obsessed with getting cash in a week, but I'm also not going to do any rehab. And so let's just price it, attractively and try to get a traditional buyer in the next 60 days. Great. And there will be people who are like, to be honest, I just want to be done with this thing. We've got mold in the bathroom. My son smokes weed in his room and it smells like a skunk. And like my ex-wife is nagging me for money. It's like, okay, well, we can help you with that. And so at the core of all of this, if you want to be a real estate investor, you have to understand your job as somebody who has a real estate license, knowledge of the market, is to provide options and help them understand. You will help them with whatever their desires are. The problem is we think we control the narrative. And so it's like somebody may go like, well, I'm thinking of just selling it cash to an investor. And we're like, no, you're leaving so much money on the table and like open door is predatory and whatever you say. And then you walk away thinking you helped them only to find out they sold to open door anyways. Because again, people do things for their own reasons and not yours.
Exactly. Yeah, I love that. And it's like, if you walk into Nordstrom's and go over to the clearance section, there's a $300 pair of shoes that they're selling for $150. And to think like, oh, Nordstrom's is so stupid. Like, why are they selling these shoes for 100? It's because they want them gone. It's because they have new inventory coming in. They need to whatever make space because of the changes and the
and they need it done fast. They need it gone.
Yeah.
Taylor and I are travel agents. Why do I take Disney cruises for half the price of everyone else that's on there? Because they have rooms that are sitting empty. And for them, they're like, we'd rather just get the room filled than have it sit empty. And so somebody could go like, that's crazy. Well, why does Joe do half price Disney cruises? Well, it's because everyone does things for their own reasons, and Disney has their reasons. Home sellers have their reason. Nordstrom has their reason. So don't try to dictate to Nordstrom, Disney, or a home seller what their reason should be. Just become somebody who is willing to hop on a cruise for half price, is willing to buy a house for discount, is willing to buy some shoes on sale. Like, just understand that people have their reasons.
That's it. That's it. And I think if that's the one thing you get out of this, I would say there's, a lot of information. The number one thing is there are 3 to 5 deals a year in your world, at least. I mean, I look at some of the people on this Zoom and, I know Josh has done more than 3 to 5, and there's people, Nan, that are in that world that you're already seen it. But the thing that I would say that get from this is there's 3 to 5 deals a year right now without you doing anything else. Number 2, quit trying to dictate what sellers want, why they want it, and start offering. One of the things that kind of blew my mind is we were talking with a national data analytics. It was somebody with Easy Street Offers, and they used to work for Zillow and stuff. And they said I think it was the 5 of the top like 10 retail real estate teams in America, brokerages and teams, 8 of the top 10 present cash offers as a first option. So like leading in with a cash offer and sitting down at someone's desk and saying at their couch and saying, hey, Mr. Seller, Mrs. Seller, most people that show up are going to tell you all the things that they're going to do for you and all the ways they're going to sell your house and the cool videos and pictures. I'm showing up right now telling you I've already done one thing, and that's I've got 3 buyers right now that'll buy your house cash. I know that may not be an option, but I just wanted to present this to you to show you that there is an option if you want to sell cash. And then go into your listing presentation, do your thing, get it on the market with a sign and a lockbox. But even by leading every listing appointment with that simple offer that if you don't want a lockbox and a sign, we can buy your house right now, cash and close. So here's just quickly, I know we got to wrap this up, but these are back on the screen. This is another house that came up. I think this one we bought for $490. We've rented it out for or actually this is a different one. I think we bought this one for somewhere around $4, sold it for $520. Here's a house, manufactured housing. When you look at this, you're typical, like, yeah, that dude needs to sell cash. He's got 48 refrigerators in his backyard, and the inside of the house had the mold and the kids smoking weed in the room. But that one was the one we wholesale. I think we got like a $30,000 assignment fee off that. Back when it all began in 2019, when Leonard and Fleury were running for the presidency. Here's a house we bought, another manufactured house, which if you find a type of property that nobody wants, there's big, big money in that. And
Uh-huh.
we've learned at the Joe Taylor Group, manufactured housing in Nevada at least is a type of property class that nobody wants to mess with because everybody thinks it's too much work. It's not, there's not nobody that wants them. And with that, we know that there's a huge market for that. So this is one that burned, half of it burned down. We did the rehab on it. I think we bought it for like 94,000, sold it for 220,000, made about $99,000 on that one. This was a hotel example right here. Bought this thing, blew out the weeds, cleaned out the house, and I think we netted like $68,000 on that one. This is that email that I showed you at the beginning. This one's even, we bought this thing for $8,000 and sold it for $30,000 with $5,000 down. So on that one, we get like $260 a month. We're going to get that for the next 17 years. But every single property that you go into, my advice would be tie into your listing presentation a cash offer solution. Let them know if you're just looking for another realtor to put a sign on the front lawn and a lockbox. I'm not that person. I actually am here to let you know that if you want to sell cash, we've got a cash buyer right now. It's ready to purchase your house. If that doesn't work out, we're going to give you the best listing, the best videos, the best photos, the best customer service, the best transaction management you've ever seen. But I would start leading every listing and every house you go to in your mind, just thinking, how can I buy this thing cash?
Well, and I almost, Taylor, I'm a big analogy guy. Like I can picture myself going into a listing appointment and saying, listen, Del Taco has three kinds of hot sauce. They've got mild, scorcho, and inferno. Basically mild, medium, and hot. As a real estate practitioner, I have three options for you. And we are all in on whichever one fits for you. I'm not going to try to dictate to you what your ultimate goals and desires are, but let me explain them to you. The first is fast, easy, quick money. The second is medium length, medium money. And the last is long length, high money. And ultimately, and I wouldn't say it in that way, but you get what I'm saying. Like we could go, we've got three gears. We've got, fast, we've got medium, and we've got slow, right? And like just acknowledging and almost imagine, Taylor, let's say the person is the person who wants top dollar, whatever, even framing it that way helps create the framework of understanding of like, okay, I'm choosing high dollar, long time frame. And so now if they call you a week later and say like, Nan, why isn't my house sold? You're like, hey, psycho, we had this conversation. Like quick in today's market, quick equals cash offers, things like that. Medium equals medium money. Like you're not going to break any records in your neighborhood. We're pricing it so that we could get sold in the next 30 to 45 days and closed in the next 60 to 75 days. Or we're going to wait for the right buyer to come along and pay us the top of the market. So you're framing it that way so that you're almost setting expectations from the beginning and then simply let them make a choice. So Taylor, let's wrap it up with this. You and I preach every agent comes across 3 deals a year. Why do they miss them? Like, what are agents not seeing that you would say, like, man, you really got to change your mindset? Because some of it is the way they present and people not knowing that there's an offer there. But some of it is this place smells. I don't want to deal with a divorce. The mom died. I don't even know who has ownership of this property. Like, what do some of these deals look like that agents should keep in mind?
Yeah. So I think the reason we miss those deals, the reason we missed them, it goes back to that fear and faith. It's like the fear of learning how to do an investment deal, the fear of like the extra noise it's going to create in my life, calling investors and seeing if they want to buy this. Just that fear of not knowing exactly what you're doing. And I think the faith part is if you see that type of deal, is you just got to tie it up. Just like Joe said, if there's a deal to be made, tie it up, get it in contract, get it over to us, and we'll get it in contract and you'll get paid. But why people miss it is just going back to what we already talked about, is looking at it as a listing. Everything is a listing. It's whether it's square, round, oval, skinny, fat, whatever, everything is a listing. And that's all I'm looking for. when you change your mindset and you start looking for something, it's like that whole new car. As soon as you start thinking about like, I'm going to buy a Nissan Versa or whatever, then you see 20 Nissan
See them
Versa
everywhere.
in the city. And
Yep.
as soon as you start looking for cash deals and say, I'm going to find cash deals, they're going to show up everywhere. So I
Yeah.
think it's a simple mindset of right now, everything I do is going to be a cash deal. And if it turns out to be a listing instead, I'm still getting paid. I'm getting another listing, but I would just approach every single deal as a cash deal and watch what happens.
And I think ultimately, guys, if you follow Taylor's advice, you're in the end, you're going to list more properties. Like, I know that sounds funny, but it's like, if you go into every deal with like, all right, I'm going to figure out a way to take control of this thing or buy it cash, with the worst case scenario being I'm going to list it in the traditional sense, you're going to win more listings than if you walk into every single deal going like, I know what's best for these people. I'm going to list every single property I come across. You're not going to do any investment deals, and you're probably not going to get as many listings. People want a tour guide, not a taxi cab driver. And so people want you to help them. People want you to lay out like, guys, we can go here, we could go here, we could go here. You make the decision, but I know how to get you to all three destinations. And if we approach our business that way, we're going to succeed. So Taylor, I think all of this goes back to some of the hardcore personal integrity and honesty principles you and I have kind of built into our business. Um, if you don't have the capability, you either need to hire it or partner with it. And on the investment side, as Taylor said, partnering up with somebody is probably the best way to go. We're willing to be a partner of yours. You might have local investors in your marketplace that are willing to partner with you. Feel free to hit us up, Taylor@joetaylorgroup.com. We're willing to provide whatever advice and counsel we can. Heading into 2025, guys, this is the kind of stuff you're going to see from us. Open book. We're going to be going more podcast style than workshop style. I told Taylor this morning, I'm kind of sick of the workshop style of things. Papa 1 in the chat, Papa 2 in the chat. I'm just sick of it. And so we're going to be able to try to provide some content to you that can help you grow your business. We're going to be documenting our business, kind of what we're doing, what that's working, what we're doing that's not working. With that being said, Taylor, we've got some opportunities. So if anybody's listening to this, it may have been filled at this, if you're listening a month later on the podcast, but right now we're looking for a partner in Atlanta, Georgia, right? So we need somebody. We've got an agreement with a large lead aggregate company that's doing a lot of, we told them we don't want people to have to call cold leads. And they're like, we're going to nurture them. We're going to warm them up. We just want to hand potential buyers and sellers to agents, think about this, who are ready, willing, and able to transact. So Taylor, maybe break down a little bit of what we're looking for there, and then we'll wrap it up.
Yeah, Atlanta. So one of the reasons we were given this opportunity is because we do operate in multiple states, and we've done well in multiple states with our operations. So the people that are pursuing us and partnering with us in Atlanta, we should have a pretty massive lead flow of very qualified, filtered out leads that have already been talked to by an ISA team that are ready to go shopping, buyers and sellers. So we're just looking for somebody who's investment minded, who works hard, who is crushing their business, or even if they're just getting started but already having success. We want somebody the Joe Taylor Group can partner with, that we can bring into our world, that we can give deals and do some of the investment stuff we've been talking about together.
Perfect. Guys, hope you enjoyed this. Hope it helps. Hit us up if you A, have investment deals you need help with, or B, know a real estate agent or small team in Atlanta that needs a new opportunity. We are willing to do both. With that, Taylor, thanks for hopping on. Alyssa's going to be kicking this out in video format, in podcast format. Feel free to share it with anybody you think it may be helpful. Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy everything.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great day.